Hey guys, welcome back to another Bible in the Backyard episode. And today we're still talking about Jesus's lessons that he taught us, his parables, which are an earthly message with a heavenly meaning. And he does this in many different ways. So we have talked about the lost sheep, a lost coin. We've talked about a lost son. We've talked about talents. We have talked about, flipping through my notebook right here, the Good Samaritan, and how he wants us to act towards everybody. We've talked about, again, the lost son, the lost coin, and the lost sheep, which is how Jesus is to us. And this one is another parable. It's another lesson. And it's a parable of the wedding banquet. And you will find this in the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 22. And it's the first 14 verses of that chapter. So if you want to go ahead and turn to Matthew 22. And we're going to start with verse 1. I'm going to read it and then hopefully go through and try to explain it to you guys. Like I have been doing. It says in the first verse, says, And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. And saith he to his servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good. And the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guest, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servant, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into the outer darkness. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Okay, so let's break this down and try to explain it to you guys, because that's a lot of reading and it's a lot of different language that may not make sense. So the king who is having a marriage is God. So the king equals God. The son is Jesus. And the marriage is the relationship with him. So early it says in verse 3 through basically 6, it says, And sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all the things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their way, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. All this right here in those 4 verses are explaining Israel's relationship with God, not necessarily God's relationship with Israel and the children of Israel. And it represents how they continually chose to live their life not honoring God or not listening to God and continuously turning away from God. And Jesus, and then it says, but when the king heard thereof, he was wroth. He sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers and burned up their cities. So basically what he's saying is that, okay, then that's fine. So I'm going to go try and reach to some other people. So in verse 8, it says, then he said to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. So he's talking about the children of Israel. He's talking about how in the Bible they're not listening, they're not coming, they're not going to come to me. So he says, go ye therefore into the highways and to the hedges, basically, gather together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. So this story is also in another gospel. And it basically explains the same thing. It says both bad and good together, the Gentiles. So it's no longer necessarily, because Jesus was meant to come and he was meant to be the Messiah. He is meant to be the Messiah of the Jews. Again, in the Bible, didn't listen. They didn't see him as that. Especially the Pharisees didn't see him as that, the rulers. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go find these Gentiles. I'm going to go find these Samaritans. I'm going to go find these different people that necessarily don't follow every single thing, but I'm going to go to preach to them. I'm going to go preach to the lost. I'm going to go preach to the broken. I'm going to go preach to the sinners. I'm going to go preach to the forgotten. So in verse 9 and 10, he says, gather together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. So he's talking about the sinners. He's talking about the unclean. He's talking about the mistakes that people make on a daily basis, which is us. We're not perfect. I'm not. I say the wrong thing. I maybe think the wrong thing. The sinners, the unclean, the broken, the forgotten, the everyday normal people that walk and talk, have conversations, own businesses, walk down the street, you say hey to them in the grocery store, hey, how you doing? Those people, the people that we see every single day, he is asking for us to come to the wedding. So, we all go. Okay, so we're going to a wedding. We know we're going to a wedding, so we all have wedding attire, don't we? We all know where we're going. I just went to one this past weekend. Like, you get dressed up for it, you put on a dress, or you put on a suit, you wear what everybody, like, you wear wedding clothes. You don't just show up in jeans and a t-shirt or sweatpants and a sweatshirt and expect to stay or expect to get in, especially for a wedding that you may not know that you're going to. So you want to kind of show your best a little bit. And this is basically what this is getting at. So this person, in verse 11 through 13, it says, when the king came in to see the guest, so the king came in to see the guest. There's an ant on the table. He saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. So he's like, He was told he was coming to a wedding. He wasn't told he was just going to go to a random supper or a random lunch, but he told he was going to a wedding. And he saith unto him, friend, because in God's eyes, we are a friend. And Jesus says we are a friend. He doesn't see us as people that are distant. He doesn't see us as whatnot. He is a friend. He wants a relationship with us, which is going back to this marriage. This marriage is he wants a relationship with us. He wants to call us friend. He wants to call us family. He said unto him, friend, how camest thou hither not having a wedding garment. And this guy was speechless, so he had no answer. And said the king to his servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into the outer darkness. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. So what this is saying is that, again, this is my interpretation of it. This is not necessarily the correct interpretation. Everybody can kind of think of this as different ways. So please do not think that this is the final function of these things. I think this person that came to this wedding was hiding. He was hiding from something. He was hiding from someone. He thought he was safe. In which we are. We are safe in God, and we are safe with Jesus. And that's because we know him, and because we choose to know him. And this is what he's talking about is, and I'm not trying to sound doom and gloom. I'm not trying to sound this way, but I feel like this is a lesson for the end of time, for when we come to our deaths, and when we come to this, and we come to see Jesus, because he will judge us one day. He will. That's the marriage that it's talking about, is when we get to enter the gates of heaven. Are we going to listen? Are we going to have this relationship with Jesus now? Are we going to have this marriage with Jesus? Are we going to listen? Or are we going to be like the Israelites? Are we going to see that something else is more important than this, and they're going to go this way and go that way? Or they're going to make fun of it, or they're going to do this, or they're going to do that. So what if they make fun of it? So what if someone else maybe doesn't see this, that, and the other? To you, what's important to you? What's important to me is this relationship with Jesus here. And this man knew he was coming to a wedding and still chose to come unprepared. We know that we're going to go see Jesus one day. Regardless, when we die, we are going to go see Jesus one day. That is it. Like, that is the final, that is the thing. Like, we know this. This has been told to us over and over and over. And again, this man comes unprepared. Again, we come unprepared. We don't listen. And he still chose not to listen to Jesus' call, even after he even came to the wedding. To be made clean by his blood, to the broken to be healed again, to the forgotten to be seen. So this king chunks him out. He chunks him out of the wedding, which is exactly what God's going to do to us if we don't know him. If we don't accept Jesus for who he is, and how loving he is, and how merciful he is, and how much peace he can bring you. That's exactly what's going to happen. God and Jesus has given us plenty of warnings of this and laid it all out in front of us. It's simple. It really is simple. Either you choose to be in this relationship with God, in this relationship with Jesus, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm also not saying that it's that complicated either. It's a relationship. It has its ups and downs, its highs and lows, its imperfections and its perfections. And God sees us for all of that. He sees us for our weaknesses. He sees us for our imperfections. He sees us for all the mistakes he's made. He sees us for our thoughts we have, our brokenness and whatnot. And he still wants us. Both bad and good. He wants us. He wants us with him. But that's our choice, ultimately. So my question to you is, what's yours? Well, I will see you guys next time on Bible in the Backyard, and that is, again, about the wedding banquet. And you'll find this again in the book of Matthew in chapter 22. And again, this is just my interpretation of it, and this is my thoughts and my feelings and what was revealed to me. So I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not saying that it's right, but I am saying that God wants us. And the question is, do you want Him? So what's our choice?